Good afternoon, everybody. Today, we are going to see the topic of satellite orbits, which is covering the first unit in this satellite communication. Let us see with the introduction for the satellite orbits, where what is meant by satellites. The satellites are specifically made for the telecommunication purpose, and they are used for mobile applications such as communication to these ships, vehicles, planes, handheld terminals, and also used for the TV and radio broadcasting. They are also responsible for providing these services to an assigned region on the Earth. The power and the bandwidth of these satellites depends mainly upon the preferred size of the footprint, complexity of the traffic control protocol schemes, and the cost of ground stations. And a satellite is going to be working under certain conditions, like it is most efficient when the transmissions are focused with the desired area. So when the area is focused, then the emissions don't go outside that designated area, and thus minimizing the interference to the other systems. This leads more efficient spectrum to usage. And satellite will be supported with an antenna which has a pattern that is going to play a very important role, and it should be designed in order to best cover the designated geographical area. And the satellites should be designed by keeping in mind its very big usability, either shorter or long term effects throughout its lifetime. The Earth station should be in a position to control the satellite if it drifts from its orbit, and it should be subjected to any kind of drag from the external forces. Next, we come to the applications of the satellite. Where other satellites are used? It is used in a very broader areas like weather forecastings, radio and TV broadcast, and in military purposes we use satellites, navigation, as well as in the global telephone connections, and also to the connecting remote areas along with the global mobile communications. And these satellites, they are basically working under the function properties of some laws like Kepler's law and Newton's law. So, what does Kepler's law says? Basically, Kepler's law says that the satellites that are orbiting the Earth follows the same laws that govern the motion of the planets around the sun. So, the Kepler's law is applicable to any two bodies in the space which can interact through the gravitation. The more the massive of the two bodies, which is referred to as the primary, and the secondary term is that is means to be the satellite. Here, the primary, which is termed as any planet, which is going to be kept stationary, and the secondary will be the satellite, which is going to revolve around in an orbital. Next, we see the Kepler's first law. The Kepler's first law states that the path which is followed by a satellite around the primary will be an ellipse. So the path is going to be in an elliptical form, which is going to have two focal points, which is named as F1 and F2. And the figure here, it shows that F1 and F2, that is the two focal points, and the center of the mass of the two body system, which is going to be termed as barycenter, and this is focused at center of the foci, and this point is called the barycenter point, and the semi major axis of the ellipse is denoted by this letter A, and the semi minor axis, which is denoted by the letter B. And from this, we are going to calculate the eccentricity, that is E, and this is given by the formula, that is E, which is equal to square root of A square minus B square divided by A. Next, we go with the Kepler's second law. From the Kepler's second law, it is stated that equal time intervals, a satellite will sweep out equal or as it in its orbital plane focused at the barycenter. And from the satellite travel distance, here are two distances are calculated, that is S1 and S2, which is in terms of meters, and it is going to be for 1 second. Then the area that is covering the satellite S1 and S2 is simultaneously A1 and A2, which is going to be equal. The average velocity in each case is S1 and S2 in meter per second. And because of the equal area law, it follows that the velocity at S2 is going to be less than that at S1. And this figure here, it shows the Earth covering by the satellite, which is revolving by satellite from distance from S1 to S2, and the area which is covered from the Earth to the satellite is noted as A1 and A2. Next, we are going with the Kepler's third law. According to the Kepler's third law, it states that the square of the periodic time of orbit is proportional to the cube of the mean distance between the two bodies. The mean distance that is going to be equal to the semi-major axis A. For an artificial satellite orbiting the Earth, the Kepler's third law can be written in the form of um, A cube, which is equal to mu divided by n square. Here, it is basically the n determines the mean motion of the satellite in radians per second, and the mu term, which is called as Earth's geocentric gravitational constant, and the value given for this mu is 3.986005 into 10 to the power of 14 cubic meter divided by square second square. And next we are going to see with the Newton's law. For the Newton's law, which we have already learned in our primary classes, that is Newton's first law, it states an object at rest will remain at rest unless that is acted upon by any unbalanced force. So any object that is going to be in motion will continue to be in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by any unbalanced force. And this law is famously known to be the law of inertia. And next law which we are going to see is Newton's second law. So Newton's second law, it states that the acceleration is produced when a force acts on a mass. That is, how greater the mass of the object, the greater will be the amount of force needed to be applied. And similarly, the Newton's third law, it states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So this means that for every force, there is a reaction force that is equal in size but opposite in direction. That is to say that whenever an object pushes another object, it gets pushed back in the opposite direction equally hard. Next, we go with the orbital parameters. There are some parameters that are used to calculate the orbital path. So first we go with the apogee, a point for a satellite which is keeping farthest from the Earth. It is known as apogee, and this is going to be denoted as h to the base a. And next parameter is the perigee, a point for a satellite which is closest from the Earth, which is called as perigee, and it is denoted by the character that is h to the base p. Next term is the line of apsides. So the line that is going to join this perigee and apogee through the center of the Earth, and this line is going to be called as line of apsides, and it is the major axis of the orbit, and one half of this line's length is going to be the semi-major axis that is equivalent to the satellite's mean distance from the Earth. Next parameter is the ascending node. So the point where the orbit crosses the equatorial plane, that is going from the direction of south to north, is denoted as descending node. And similarly, the ascending node is the point where the orbit crosses the equatorial plane going from north to south. And this figure, which shows the um, path of apogee and perigee along with the subsatellite and line of apsides is denoted. Next, we check with other parameters. like inclination. Inclination is going to be the angle that is between the orbital plane and the Earth's equatorial plane. It is measured at the ascending node from the equator to the orbiter, and it is going to be focused from the direction of east to the north. So this angle is commonly, which is denoted as by the character I. And what is line of nodes? Line of nodes is nothing but the line that is going to join the ascending and the descending node through the center of the earth. That is the equatorial line. And next we are going to see the prograde orbit. Any orbit in which the satellite moves in the same direction as the earth rotates, and its inclination is going to be always between the 0 degree to 90 degree. And many satellites follow this path as the earth's velocity and makes it easier to launch these satellites. And next we are seeing with the retrograde orbiter, an orbit in which the satellite moves in the same direction but counters to the Earth's rotation. This is termed as retrograde orbit. And this previous figure, which is here, retrograde is orbit is shown in this figure along with the prograde orbit. And next we are going to see with the argument of perigee. An angle from the point of perigee measures the orbital plane at the Earth's center in the direction of the satellite motion is called as the argument of perigee. And right ascension of ascending node. This is given by the definition that an orbit in space with the position of ascending node is going to be specified. But as the Earth spins, the longitude of the ascending node changes and cannot be used for reference. And this can be practically determined for an orbit. The longitude and time of crossing the ascending node is being used. And to measure this, a fixed reference point is in space has to be required. It also um, it also been defined as right ascension of the ascending node, and right ascension is the angular position that measures the eastward along the celestial equator from the vernal equinox vector to the Haass circle of this object. And next we are going to see with the term mean anomaly. What is mean anomaly? It is the value that is giving the average value of the angular position of the satellite with reference to the perigee. And what is true anomaly? It is the same the angle from point of perigee to the satellite's position that measures the Earth's center. And this figure which shows the perigee and the line of nodes along with the equatorial plane. Next, we are going to see with the orbital perturbations. So, for an orbit, it is going to be as described by the Kepler. It is ideal as Earth is considered to be a perfect shape sphere, and the force acting around the Earth is the centrifugal force. And this force is supposed to balance the gravitational pull of the Earth. For reality, other forces that also plays an important role and affect the motion of the satellite, and these forces are the gravitational forces of sun and moon along with the atmospheric drag. So the effects of the sun and the moon is more pronounced on geostationary Earth and satellite, whereas the um, atmospheric drag effect is more pronounced for low Earth orbit satellites, that is LEO satellites. And based on this, the effects on non-spherical Earth is determined. That is, as the shape of the Earth is not a perfect sphere, it is causes some variations in the path followed by the satellites around the primary. So as the Earth is bulging from the equatorial belt, and keeping in mind that an orbit is not a physical entity and it is a force resulting from an oblate Earth which can act on the satellite, producing a change in the orbital parameters. So this causes the satellites to drift as a result of regression of the nodes and the latitude of the point of perigee. This leads to the rotation of the line of apsids. As the orbit itself moving with respect to the Earth, the resultant changes are seen in the values of the argument of perigee and the right ascension of ascending node. So due to the non-spherical shape of Earth, one more effect that is called to be the satellite graveyard is seen. And the non-spherical shape that leads to the small value of eccentricity, let us termed as 10 to the power of minus 5 at the equatorial plane. And this causes a gravity gradient on geo satellite and makes them drift to one of the two stable points which coincides with minor axis of the equatorial ellipse. Next we see with the atmospheric drag. So for an LEO satellite, that is low Earth orbiting satellite, the effect of atmospheric drag is more pronouncing. That is, the impact of this drag is going to be maximum at the point of perigee, and it drags. The effect of the dragging is going to based on the velocity of the satellite, and this is going to causes the satellite to not reach the apogee height successive at the successive revolutions, and this can lead an change in value of semi-major axis and eccentricity. The satellites in services are maneuvered by the Earth station back to their original orbital position. Next, we check with the station keeping. So, in this station keeping, what does it mean? In order to have an attitude control, it is important that a geostationary satellite to be kept in its correct orbital slot. So the equatorial ellipticity of the Earth can cause geostationary satellites to drift slowly along the orbit to one of the two stable points at either 75-degree east and 105-degree west. So to counter this drift, an oppositely directed velocity component is imparted to the satellite by means of jets, which are pulled once for an every 2 or 3 weeks. And these maneuvers are termed to be called as east-west station keeping maneuvers. And these satellites are provided with a 6 by 4 gigahertz band, and it must be kept within zero point 0.1 degree of the designated longitude, and also in the 14 divided by 12 gigahertz band within the limit of 0.05 degree. Next, we check out with the geostationary and non-geostationary orbits. So what is meant by geostationary? A geostationary orbit is one in which a satellite orbits the Earth at exactly the same speed as the Earth turns and the same latitude, that is in specifically it is mentioned as 0, the latitude of the equator. A satellite that is orbiting in a geostationary orbit appears to be hovering in the same spot in the sky, and it is going to be directly over the same patch of ground at all the times. Geosynchronous is a term which is an orbit in which the satellite is synchronized with the Earth's rotation, but the orbit is tilted with respect to the plane of the equator. So any satellite in a geosynchronous orbit will wander up and down in latitude, although it will stay over the same line of longitude. So although the terms geostationary and geosynchronous are sometimes used interchangeably, and they are not the same technically, geostationary orbit is a subset of all possible geosynchronous orbits. And also geostationary orbits must the geostationary orbits in objects in the orbit must be at a certain distance above the Earth, either any closer, and the orbit would decay, and farthest they escape from the Earth's gravity together. and this distance should be kept maintained at 35,786 kilometers from the surface. And the first geosynchronous satellite was orbited in the year of 1963, and the first geostationary, that is one of the that also was launched in the year of 1963. Since the only geostationary orbit is in a plane with the equator at a distance of 35,786 kilometers, and there is only one circle around the world, so the conditions are obtained. For the geostationary satellites, there are basically two kinds of man-made satellites in the heavens that occur. That is, one kind is satellite orbits, and the other one will be the twice a day. That is, other kind is a communication satellite, and it is going to be parked in a stationary position. For example, it is going to be at the position of distance of 22,300 miles above the equator of the stationary Earth. And this geostationary, which is going to mean the real estate is fine, and while satellites are in no danger of bumping uh, into one another yet, they must be in a space around the circle so that their frequencies do not interfere with the functioning of their nearest neighbors. And geostationary satellites have a type of orbiting satellite which includes the space shuttle and the international space station, which keeps a low Earth orbiting, that is termed as LEO, to avoid the deadly Balayan radiation belts. And the most prominent satellites in the medium Earth orbit, that is MEO, or the satellites which comprises of global positioning system, that is famously called as GPS. And next we go with the topic of global positioning system. So what is GPS? We are familiar with this GPS system. That is, it is mainly used for tracking any vehicles, like ships or uh, aeroplanes, everything which are hidden, it can be tracked using this GPS system. So this GPS system, here we have seeing two pictures of GPS. The first one, it shows the satellite that is orbiting at a height of about 12,000 miles, and it orbits in the Earth for every 12 hours, once for every 12 hours. And the second image, which shows the picture of 24 GPS satellites that is orbiting the Earth for every 12 hours. And this GPS system is initially it was developed by an US military, and it is kept open to the civilian user. And it is nowadays used in order to track the planes, ships, trains, cars, and for any the objects that can be movable can be tracked using this GPS system. So anyone can buy a receiver and track their exact location by using this GPS receiver. And these satellites are going to travel around the Earth at a speed of about 7,000 milli per second, milli per hour. And GPS satellites are getting power by using this solar energy. And in case of any drawback with the solar energy, they have a backup battery on board to keep them running in the event of a solar eclipse. When there's no solar power, that is during the solar eclipse, you can't find this sun. So for that purpose, they have a backup battery to get their power supply. And there are small rockets that boosters on each satellite, keeping them flying in the correct path. The satellites have a lifetime of about 10 years until all their fuels run out, and exactly of 22,300 miles above the equator, the force of gravity is going to be cancelled by the centrifugal force of the rotating universe. So this is the ideal spot in order to park the stationary satellite. And for the non-geostationary orbits, what is meant by non-geostationary orbit means It is the most important of these, that is the gravitational fields of the moon and the sun and the non-spherical shape of the earth. For any significant force such as solar radiation pressure and the reaction of the satellite itself to motor the movement within the satellite. As a result, the station keeping maneuvers must be carried out in order to maintain the satellite within the set limit of its nominal geostationary position. And an exact geostationary orbit will have is therefore having no attainable in practice, and the orbital parameters vary with corresponding to the time. The two line orbital elements that are pushing at regular intervals are provided in the non-geostationary orbits. And the period for for a geostationary satellite, it ranges from 23 hours 56 minutes 4 seconds, or combinedly it is called as 86,164 seconds. So the reciprocal of this is given by the value of 1.00273896 revolutions per day, which is about the value that is tabulated for most of the satellites. And thus the satellites are geosynchronous, and they rotate in synchronism with the rotation of the earth. And they are not if they are not geostationary, the term geosynchronous satellites is being used in many cases instead of geostationary, in order to describe the better senior geostationary satellites. And it should be noted that in general, a geosynchronous satellites does not have to be near geostationary, and there are a number of geosynchronous satellites that are in highly elliptical orbits with comparatively large inclinations. Let us consider, for example, tundra satellites. And in these satellites, the small inclination can make difficult to locate the position of the ascending node, and the small eccentricity, it can make it difficult to locate the position of the perigee. So, however, because of the small inclination, the angles W and omega can be assumed in the same plane, and the longitude of the sub-satellite point will give the east early rotation from the Greenwich meridian. So this formula, the null SS, which is equal to omega plus epsilon, sorry, omega plus v minus GST, and the Greenwich sidereal time, which is gives the eastward position of the Greenwich meridian, and which is relative to the line of Aries, and hence the subsatellite point is at the longitude, and the mean longitude of the satellite is going to be given by this formula null SS, which is equal to W plus omega and mean GST.